Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Daily Rollup. My name is Kagan Dunlap, and Monday through Friday, we put together news rollup that's essentially current events, current affairs, and global events happening around the world, and we put them together into a short, easily digestible format so that way you can kind of have a brief idea of things that are happening around the world without having to watch mainstream media or without having to flip the channel on the news. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So if you've seen this video circulating around, there's been a few different takes on where it is and what's actually happening and who these people are. But after doing a little bit of digging, I figured out that these are Ukrainians in the city of Pokrovsk, which is in eastern Ukraine in the Donetsk region. And it's a very contested region right now, and they're becoming encircled by Russian military. So what this video is depicting is Ukrainians, local Ukrainians, directing a Ukrainian drone to a location where there are some Russian soldiers hiding. Now, currently, Pokrovsk is a pretty big key logistical hub in the eastern part of Ukraine. Like I said, it's getting constricted. It's under severe pressure from the Russian military, and they're making a big push to try to take this area. Now, Pokrovsk has seen Russian forces employing infiltration tactics, including soldiers wearing Ukrainian uniforms or civilian clothes in order to sabotage or gather intelligence behind Ukrainian lines. And the residents have become pretty frustrated with these incursions and have reportedly alerted Ukrainian forces and guided drones to suspected hiding spots to prevent attacks on infrastructure and civilians. Now, Pokrovsk is one of those cities that's viewed by the Ukrainians as a critical defensive position, and so they've been doing everything they can to hold out and maintain this city for as long as they can, at great cost and at great risk. Now, from what I've seen, a lot of the pro-Ukrainian channels have covered this video specifically, praising it as like genuine, authentic civilian resistance against the Russian war machine, while basically most Russian state media sources or Russian affiliated channels have basically just not covered this video. So now the city of Pokrovsk is, like I said, it's semi-encircled by Russian forces, meaning that they're on like both sides. It's like this right here, and they're kind of like this around the city. So like they could, if they needed to get out through the backside, they could, but it's like kind of semi-encircled. Russian troops are advancing on multiple fronts on the city and controlling key supply routes. There's, like I said, there's a 10 to 15 kilometer area that's still wide open, which would allow Ukrainian troops to enter the city, but it's still vulnerable to attack. So it would have significant consequences if Pokrovsk fell and then the Ukrainians lost control of the city. However, there may come a time if the Russians continue their push where the Ukrainian forces have to withdraw from the area to avoid being trapped. So I think we'll all be paying close attention to this place. So according to the local sources, Russian authorities have reported that another long-range Ukrainian drone strike took place on the morning of August 14th of 2025 with a slow-flying drone approaching and impacting the roof of a building, of a residential apartment building in Rostov, in the city of Rostov in southern Russia near the border with Ukraine. Now, there's video footage circulating around online showing the slow-flying drone impacting the roof of the building, causing an explosion and subsequent damage. Now, I would say this is probably part of a broader wave of Ukrainian drone attacks across all of the southern Russian regions, including Rostov, Belgorod, Volgograd, and others, which injured at least 16 people in total, according to Russian officials, although those numbers could be different. Now, so far from what I've seen, apparently 13 people were wounded in the attack on Rostov, with 2 in serious condition and victims being transported to the hospitals and local emergency medical facilities. Most of the reports indicate that the people were injured from fragments of the building's facade and glass that was falling on people below after the explosion, and so most of the injuries were as a result of that. Apparently, the drone reportedly hit the roof, damaging at least 10 apartments and causing fires or structural damage with the building. And according to the acting governor there, he described it as a drone attack that affected multiple apartment buildings, although no fatalities were initially reported. You can tell from the video footage that it's probably an A-22 light aircraft, oftentimes referred to as the Flying Fox, which is a type of Ukrainian drone that's typically been used in these long-range strikes all over Russia. And according to Russian sources, they're saying that electronic warfare systems jammed the drone, which is why it caused it to lose control and crash into the civilian infrastructure rather than hitting whatever other intended target it had, which would make sense because Ukraine typically doesn't attack civilian infrastructure. So if anything, it was on the way to go hit some sort of a military or strategic location. And then when it got jammed, slowly drifted down and crashed into a building. Now, Rostov is a key logistical hub for Russian military operations in Ukraine, and it hosts command centers, supply depots, and other things. So it would make sense that maybe that drone was on the way to hit some of that key infrastructure, and they took it down with electronic warfare before it actually arrived to its targeted location. Dude, what is it with ammunition depots detonating and exploding for no reason in Syria? This is the second time within like a month that this has happened. Apparently on August 14th of 2025, there was a massive explosion that occurred in the western outskirts of Idlib city in northwestern Syria, which is an area that's controlled by the Turkish-backed opposition groups in the region. The blast originated from an ammunition depot, which led to multiple secondary explosions that shook the surrounding regions. And obviously, there's a lot of videotaping of it because everybody came outside their houses like, what's going on? What's going on? Initial reports have indicated that there were 4 fatalities, with numerous injuries reported in local hospitals issuing urgent calls for blood donations amid rising casualty rates from that area. The exact cause of the detonation is still unknown. Nobody knows what happened. There's a lot of speculation, obviously. A lot of people think that there was a mishap, possible targeted strike, though nobody's claimed responsibility for that. So really the only thing that anyone knows now is that there was a large fireball and thick smoke from an area detonated that was at one point a ammunition storage site. Some of the sources I've seen out there noted that there was a presence of foreign factions at the location, but the details are unconfirmed because most information coming out of Syria is hard to confirm because there's not a lot of official sources down on the ground. It's mostly unofficial. But like I said, this keeps happening. The Idlib province, this is the second ammunition depot that's like detonated in these rebel-held territories within a month, because the last time this happened, it happened in July, which involved higher casualty figures in some cases, but still. Like, is it because of the way that they're storing the ammo? Is it because of like the fact that these folks aren't, you know, following proper procedures for storaging or for the storage of ammunition or the transportation of it? Like, I don't know. What do you guys think? So apparently there's some surveillance state stuff going on in the United Kingdom that a lot of people haven't really been paying attention to. Apparently there's been a surge in the UK police use of retrospective facial recognition technology, also known as FRT, on a database that contains over 150 million passport, visa, and immigration photos conducted without explicit parliamentary oversight or public consultation, which is kind of a problem, obviously. This has been labeled Orwellian by critics who highlight the risks like erroneous identifications and broader surveillance implications. Now, currently, the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has expressed support for expanding FRT to combat crime and disorder. However, there's some drawbacks to that. Now, the Freedom of Information requests that were obtained by privacy groups revealed that since 2020, the United Kingdom police forces have conducted hundreds of retrospective FRT searches in the Home Office's passport and immigration databases, which includes photos from UK passport holders, visa applicants, and immigration records. Now, this access was granted covertly by the Home Office without public or parliamentary debate, meaning just completely bypassing Parliament, just doing it. Now, the database holds approximately 150 million images currently, and Freedom of Information data shows a skyrocketing increase in searches from fewer than 100 in 2020 to over 500 in recent years across dozens of police forces. Now, the director of Big Brother Watch, named Silky Carlo, has publicly described the system as, quote, Orwellian and a, quote, historical breach of privacy, warning it can turn citizens' passport photos into police mugshots. Now, some of the critics of FRT are stating that there's been massive risk in misidentifying people, leading to unfair legal consequences, which has been substantiated through evidence. Apparently, there is some significant error rates in FRT that can lead to wrongful arrests or stops. For instance, a recent case involving Sean Thompson, who was misidentified by the Metropolitan Police's live FRT as a wanted suspect, prompting a legal challenge, which is like, imagine you're just going about your day and all of a sudden you get arrested by the police because you were misidentified as somebody else, and then it creates a record of you having been arrested and all this other stuff, and it just creates problems for your life when you had nothing that you were ever involved in before. Another valid concern in regards to FRT is the fact that police have secretly been obtaining images from protests, social media, or public places to identify non-suspects, which raises concerns about privacy as well, because if you haven't haven't been complicit or violating any rules or laws or anything like that, and they're collecting your data, like that's kind of enabling mass surveillance without any type of warrant or anything like that, which is like, what are we doing? You know? So there's pros and cons. Like obviously if you've got organized crime, you've got criminals that are out there that are repeat offenders and they constantly keep going out there and committing horrible crimes, then this may help identify them. However, the drawback is you could misidentify people at the same time, and then the privacy risks and collecting data on millions of people who may or may not be involved in any type of malicious activity, you know, and then their information and their data is out there forever, you know, even if they didn't do anything wrong. I don't know. What do you guys think about this? Do you think this is good technology? Do you think that it's beneficial to the people? Or do you think that is a violation of privacy and a dangerous Orwellian thing? So the retired Navy SEAL David Goggins is back at it again. He's 50 years old now, and he just completed a 200-mile endurance run at the grueling Bigfoot 200 endurance run course. It's actually closer to 206 miles, but who's counting? In any case, this ultra marathon spans through the rugged wilderness of Washington's Cascade Mountains and starts near Mount St. Helens, featuring some pretty nasty terrain at 40 that goes up to over 42,000 feet of elevation gain and similar descent, including volcanic landscapes, dense forests, and remote trails. Now, the race was held from August 8th, 2025, and is notorious for its non-stop format where participants must navigate sleep deprivation, harsh weather, and physical exhaustion over multiple days, with aid stations spaced pretty far apart. Now, David Goggins finished the race in 66 hours, 4 minutes, and 17 seconds, securing 23rd place overall out of the competitors and 18th in the 50 to 59 age category. Now, this is pretty incredible considering the fact that Goggins underwent 5 knee surgeries in the past 18 months, including a recent osteotomy procedure that left doctors doubting his ability to ever run these types of distances again. Now, despite all this adversity and all these setbacks, he went out there and he stayed hard by training relentlessly and proving that his mental resilience will help carry him through any challenge and transcend any of his physical limitations. Now, so far, apparently Goggins has ran over 60 ultra marathons in total, which that just makes my knees hurt thinking about. In addition to setting like a 24-hour pull-up record, world record at one point, and constantly competing in like extreme challenges like the Moab 240 and the Badwater 135, he just continues to show up and perform, you know, despite all the adversity and the physical ailments that he's suffering from at the age that he is. So if he can do it at the age of 50 after that many knee surgeries, man, I feel like I don't have any excuses. I need to run more. Okay, so it looks like another drone attack just took place in the city of Belgorod in Russia, which is near the border with Ukraine. According to multiple reports, the assault involved over 30 drones, many of which were intercepted by Russian air defenses. However, there were a couple that got through, including one Ukrainian drone that directly hit a moving car in central Belgorod, causing it to catch fire. Security camera footage captured the moment of impact, showing 2 passengers escaping the vehicle before it erupted in flames, so it looks like they probably survived. Bystanders and emergency responders quickly assessed the injured and, you know, provided aid and things like that. 3 civilians were wounded. A man and his wife were hospitalized with shrapnel wounds and burns, and then a third person with leg injuries and internal trauma. In addition to that, another drone struck the Belgorod Regional Government building, causing minor damage such as broken windows and things like that. And then now the Russian officials in the area were reporting what they were calling darts type FPV drone models. And you could hear like gunfire and like air defenses going off in the city, which led to temporary closure of different shops and things like that. Yeah, pretty wild. Do you guys think that insurance would cover this? Well, that's it for the daily roll up for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope we all learned something about what's going on around the world. I appreciate you sticking around till now if you're still here, because it supports the channel and helps enable us to continue to do this stuff, because without your support, then I wouldn't be able to do this. Thank you so much for watching. Please let us know in the comments below what you thought about this video, whether or not there's something that you liked about it, there's something that you think we can improve upon, or if there's something you would like to see in the future. And as always, we will see you in the next video.